Like, bitch, are you actually kidding me right now? Like, are you actually kidding? We had to make it work. I don't even think we were able to get in touch with the gallery owner. If we're gonna make this work, like, you need to be in the middle of the room.
What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning into the Prototype podcast hosted by Infinite Prototype. I am your host, Infinite Prototype. On today's episode, I have Fora Arts Collective, Alana and Nora. They're the two co-founders. Fora Arts Collective is based in New York City. They are out to promote artists and be inclusive and share resources and just like give people opportunities out here. And it's really amazing the community that they're building. We got right into it this episode, and we had a lot of great conversations around the business of art, the art world, and what it's like building a community here in New York City that is not pretentious and shitty. So I won't babble on too much. You can check out their links in the description down below. And don't forget to check out their Instagram. Don't forget to check out their upcoming shows. All of that will be linked and mentioned in the episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Let's get into it. So let's just start with some introductions, because I don't know you at all, Nora. I know you. Hi. So let's just start with introductions. Nora, tell me about yourself.
Yes. My name is Nora, and I've lived here for about 3 years. Alana and I know each other because we're roommates.
Okay.
We were random Facebook roommates, so the joys of that. We became very good friends, which is how we kind of ended up here. But yeah, I don't have, I work in like a corporate job, so I don't work. Yeah. So I don't work in the arts necessarily in my day job. But I have a background in like creative writing and the performing arts. So yeah, that's kind of why I was interested in doing Fora.
Cool. And Alana?
Yes. Hi there.
Hi,
Alana. Background on me. I was working corporate job. I work in the service industry now.
Mm-hmm.
I did go to school with you for art.
Shout out SUNY New Paltz.
SUNY New Paltz, bringing people together. I studied painting and drawing there and tried to do freelance for a while. Wasn't really enjoying it, so continued working in the service industry, and then moved into corporate. Now I'm out. But still, like, I have my own practice with my art and like just still doing that kind of on my own.
Yeah, same, pretty much. Corporate job, trying to like start a whole bunch of other shit on the side. Started a YouTube channel recently.
I saw.
You saw?
Yeah, well, because you had it on your like link tree or something.
Okay, I didn't know if anyone clicked on that.
I did click on it.
I kind of just slid it in there as just like I'll announce it when I'm ready. I haven't been ready. I'm like too nervous, but I've been putting out videos on there, and now I want to start the podcast again and then cut everything into like short form.
Cool.
So like my goal with all of this is to create just like better conversations around art with people who like actually make art and try and do things for artists. Be like open up the information gateway, share resources. The whole point is to be like kind of like an anti-gatekeepy art podcast. Most conversations with artists are kind of fucking boring. Most podcasts with artists are kind of fucking boring. They're mostly sponsored by like the people who represent the artist, so they're really careful, and I'm over it. So that's why I started this. And that's kind of the goal, right? So Fora Arts Collective.
Yes.
That's the full name?
Yes, Fora Arts Collective, yeah.
Okay. How did that get started?
Like for me, I was working my corporate job at the time. I was feeling like really fed up with it, really just like uninspired. I took a long break from my own practice in art too, and kind of started getting back into it around that time period. And Nora has experience in performing arts and like similar kind of situation of just like we have our own practices, but not really like feeling inspired in that. And we started talking about how it'd be really nice to find like a community in New York City that can like help initiate that and just like help inspire us personally. And then we were just kind of chatting about it, and I was expressing my frustration for like how gatekeepy it is and how it feels like you have to like have this really like serious practice or like this serious skill set or like education in order to enter into these spaces. And we were kind of just like, what if we started our own space like that? And that's kind of like, I mean, that's my perspective on how that happened.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think kind of exactly what Alana said. We have had many discussions just as roommates and friends about how frustrating it can feel that the arts is supposed to be this community where people can, you know, be their like authentic selves, and creativity is supposed to be this like really open space, you know. And so it was kind of frustrating that it feels like for that to be the product or what the goal is, it is so gatekeepy. And, you know, someone like myself who I'm not like a working artist. And I also don't work in the arts field necessarily in my corporate job. I felt like an outsider. But I also am, you know, I love the arts and I love to consume and produce as well. But didn't feel like there was a space for people who also don't have more of a like portfolio background in that field. You know, it was like, well, you wouldn't get it. So that was why we kind of also had the intention of making it a welcoming and open space for people who also are adjacent to the arts and who might be consumers of the arts, but not necessarily working or have the goal of being, like full, I guess, working artist.
So like, talk me through like what the realization of it was. You like, obviously you're having these conversations, you're getting these ideas, and then what is like the first step after that? Did you just like try and organize a pop-up show? Did you like hit up a group of people? You were like, let's all just get drunk and put stuff up, and like, you know, like what was like that first like actionable step that like came right after that thought?
Yeah, the first actionable step, as far as I can remember, was we did call up a few people and we were like, what do you think about this idea? And they were like, this is a great idea. We all kind of sat down. We started like, you know, on a Google Doc, just like playing with ideas. Like, what is like the end goal of this if we were to start something like this? We landed on pop-up shows because it's the most accessible like introduction to it, I think. And Joe Galena connects with Gallery MC, and I had shown at Gallery MC prior, so like only like a few months before that. So it was kind of like him and I reconnected, and we started talking about Fora, and I was kind of like, oh, let me just hit up Joe and see like what he thinks about the idea. So we like talked with him, we met with him, he was really into the idea, and then we just kind of like set a date for the pop-up show, and that was like the very first actionable step, I think.
Okay, that's so just hit the ground running with it basically.
Kind of, yeah.
And Gallery MC was just down.
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit gallery, and they usually have the space full, but there's like off times where they'll just like have a day in between shows or a few days in between shows, and within that time they're like down to let us use the space. So we're definitely really grateful to them for that.
Hugely.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's rare too. That
It
like
is.
You know, because I think a lot of the questions that people always have when they see something like that, they're like, how do you just like get a space whenever you want, or like how do you just like find this, like, you know, it's like I think most people assume that you have to like either own something, or like you have to like, you assume that you have to like pay a lot of money up front to rent something, or you have like, but sometimes you just get lucky.
It's
like,
true, yeah. And I mean, like, it's like that is only possible because like I went to college and I made that connect. So it's like I had access to that, and obviously that's like a whole other conversation to have, but and also relating to the arts, like having access to the connections. But I also think there's just like a ton of spaces all over the city that are trying to do that kind of thing, and it's about like finding the right vibe in order for them to like agree to do that, because yeah, if you're going to like a gallery in Soho, they might not be down to just like give you that space for free.
Yeah.
Have you tried to go to a gallery in Soho?
We have not. I hope that someday we can try, but not at the moment. No, I think also to kind of follow what Alana said, the first pop-up show was kind of a trial, not just for us as Fora, but also for Gallery MC and us to see like what is the outcome of it. And I think we've had a lot of great success from our pop-up shows, and so that's also been kind of the other piece that they realize, okay, this isn't just like friends getting together and like having a beer and looking at art. This is like, there's like other, you know, there is something to be made from this.
Yeah.
do you have like any goals you're working towards with this art collective?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, we want to continue doing the pop-up shows just kind of as like a standard baseline practice for Fora. Part of what we are really aiming to do is just continue building a network of artists. And so in order to do that, I think the pop-up shows are a great vessel to meet new people, make new connections. And so we want to continue doing that in the future. But also we've been having some really fruitful conversations with other art collectives and other groups that have similar visions. So, potentially collaborating with some other art collectives. Also, we would love to, we had one event back in the spring, an artist networking event where we basically brought together all of the artists from our previous pop-up shows and then invited some like industry people as well, like art journalists and curators. And we just kind of wanted to get everyone together and facilitate a space for them to all connect. Because again, like for us, it's about building a community is the most important piece of it. So we would love to keep hosting more events like that in the future. Also, I don't know, maybe do some workshops for artists as well. So yeah, we have a lot of ideas swimming around, but I think that those are kind of the things that we have talked about that are on the table.
Yeah, and they seem the most like attainable at the moment because it's not like we have a huge budget we're working with or anything. So it's just like, what can we do for like with the cheapest possible and the most like effective?
Do you guys like organize yourselves as like kind of like a formal collective? Like, do you collect dues from members and things like that?
No, so that was like one thing when we were talking about Fora is like, I personally really, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like I personally just like hate and I get that there's like a business aspect to things and obviously people need to make money and of course, but I really like don't like the way that artists are expected to like pay application fees to like even just apply to a gallery that they may not even get into.
Yeah, the pay to play model. Yeah. It's crazy.
And like having access to people, like there shouldn't be like a $ barrier there. So it's like part of our model is like we are fortunate where we can work with Gallery MC and they are not taking a cut of work that's sold. So that's like another thing. I think in the future it could be possible to like work out a model where it's like if you're a member, maybe you're paying certain fees for whatever, like access to certain things. But I'd love to not have that be possible if we can make that work,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's like
because it's like crazy when you think about it. It's like $5 I can get. If there's a guest curator involved, if there's someone else that's like working and like doing stuff for you, like, and that money's going to go to pay them, I get it. $5, that's not a huge barrier to entry. No. That's like, in terms of like affordability in the art
and
world.
Like an investment, that's not like, it's a pretty low risk.
Low risk, potentially like good reward, potential nothing.
Right.
But then as soon as it gets into like $36 for 5 images, I'm like, are you fucking
or like
kidding
$50,
me?
It's ridiculous.
And it's like, what are you promising me here? Like,
nothing. They're literally not
like giving
absolutely
me
nothing.
They're promising that they'll get your images.
Yeah. And then they're not even going to keep it or anything. Like, it's not like, hey, you're part of now a system that like we're going to keep you in mind. It's like, no, this is like full, just this is how it works. And we're not willing to like break that down at all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Big, a lot of fun. Good system.
Great. We love it.
Going off of that, have you had to reject anyone or have you had to like approach the subject of rejection as like part of like running this?
Good question.
I mean, so far, no, because we've been operating on also the model when we're selecting artists for our shows of, we kind of reach out as the first point. So we haven't done like an open call situation where we have people like submitting work to us necessarily. So we haven't had the experience of having to really, because we are kind of facilitating that initial request. But it is something that I think we are going to probably be faced with in the future.
We're trying to do an open call for our next show. And part of that is just to like expand like the accessibility for people. But also part of that is because it gets to a point where it's like, we're like sorting through a lot of like profiles on Instagram, like websites to reach out to artists. Nora puts in a lot of work, like doing that first point of contact, and it's exhausting. And it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, you know, there's a win-win situation here. We can't accept everyone, but it's usually on the basis of like, does this work look good together, or does this work fit the theme, and not necessarily like, we don't like your work, you know?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you think you're going to have a fee for the open call? And is the show going to be, when is that going to, like, do you know any of those details yet?
Yeah. So the date is on January 5th. So we try to keep this model of like Friday evenings, 3 hours. It just seems to work out the best for everyone. What we've been doing is, and this is kind of like a little workaround, is instead of charging artists fees to apply and to show their work, we've been doing like an open bar kind of thing. So it's like we have, you know, like White Claws and like wine there, and it's a $5 right. Everyone loves a White Claw. It's like a $5 cover at the door, basically, for anyone who wants to like view the art and just kind of like hang out there.
I like that.
They get alcohol. It's like usually, we've tried a few things. We did like a 2-drink maximum, and then another time we did like open bar, and that kind of got out of hand.
Had to put some boundaries up.
Go to CVS like 4 times to like re-up. I mean, everyone behaved well, but it was just like, Jesus Christ, is like my 4th trip to CVS, like buying out, like, because it's the only thing in the area too. It's just like,
we're clearing the bodega shelves. Like, we need 15 of those.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
No, but I like that. I like the idea of paying at the door for art events, for anything art related. Like, I think the idea of every avenue of viewing art being free outside of a museum has negatively impacted artists.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that it causes this system where the galleries don't charge money for people to come in.
Yes.
They're relying on a huge overhead.
Right.
They're also then relying on large ticket sales, large ticket clients, like all these things that are just like,
and like artists to like kind of
high
make
cost.
up for that.
Well, it's not even like artists are making up for it. We're like footing the labor for free with the promise of maybe you'll get some money back down the line. Like, and that's insane.
Yes.
Whereas like a new model that I've thought about a lot is like making an event like bigger, including more, I don't know, like a better bar service.
Yes.
Like more like music, make it more lively, make it more of an event.
Yeah.
And charging at the door.
Yeah.
That way it's an experience. People value it more. Doesn't have to be like fucking, $25 concert ticket, but like
100%. Yeah.
just something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like totally what, I mean, we've talked about what a future event could look like.
Yeah.
That is exactly like what I envision, because to me, it's like, you can go to a bar and you're paying like $100 in one night, like for the door cost, for the drinks, all of that. And you're getting like sometimes a really great show, and sometimes you're just like standing in the corner.
Yeah.
Whereas like, with like this kind of model, it's like regardless, if you're paying a really low cost, you can come in, you can view some great art. Eventually, we'd love it to be a situation where there is music involved. It's more of like maybe not a festival, but more of like a creative kind of like
just
collaborative space. Yeah. And you're getting something really valuable out of it. And it's not just like party, we're going to a bar, or you're in like a weird situation where you like feel like you have to stand there and view art in a really meaningful way.
Where you can like pretend like, oh yeah, like I love it.
Yeah, like, you don't have to do all that.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
you can come at your own leisure.
It's always like that cross the arms sidestep.
Yeah, like we don't want to do that.
That little slow dance that everyone
like,
does.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm having a moment. Don't talk to me. I'm looking at
like
art.
the step back, like
or like the normal art openings where it's like just packed out with people,
and you can't even see it.
You can't see shit. It sucks. People aren't fun. They're not
Everyone's lame.
Yeah.
Everyone's boring.
It's true. Well, I think also something that we really try to do to our with our shows to make it feel, also in a way break down that barrier that you're talking about of this like kind of stiff nature where people feel like they have to be super engaged in an almost like artificial way. we have, for our last 3 big pop-ups, we do like a speech, which I guess not even really a speech, but just like kind of an open kind of conversation where we introduce ourselves, introduce the show, the concept behind the show. And I think one of the reasons that that's really important for us is because it also really kind of breaks down that barrier of like, I've been to so many shows where you walk in, you get a show card, and then that's it. It's like, there's no, you don't know who the artists are. You have no idea who is hosting this. It can feel like this really impersonal experience where you're like in your own world, and you just are kind of losing connection with what the point of this event is. And so it's important for us to have that moment of like a 2-minute speech and intro to the audience about like, here is why we're doing this. And also I think it makes the artists feel comfortable. When in our experience, we've noticed that, you know, when you pull a really like wide pool of artists that might not necessarily know each other for a pop-up show, sometimes they might, you know, some artists are better at maybe like marketing themselves than others. And so they can facilitate those conversations together. But a lot of times, I think what we also strive to do with these pop-ups is be that kind of mediator in a way and make it feel more safe and comfortable, so people can let their guard down and really connect in a deeper way with these type of events.
Yeah, that's amazing, because literally that doesn't happen in Chelsea. It doesn't happen in the Midtown galleries. It like sometimes happens in the Soho galleries, but like, you know, you're still in the like, you know, it's just like the curators and the people who host and put on the events, they're always so focused on their circle. They're focused on their clients. Yeah. They're focused on like the artist, like they're focused on like the celebrity or like the person they invited. And I get that, because that plays into like, you know, it's their model, right? Like they got to sell, like they got to justify a $60,000 painting to someone who definitely doesn't need it. Right. So they're going to be up that person's ass all night. Yeah. But I love that you're like trying to facilitate conversation and like have like these like icebreakers, for lack of a better term, to like make it more of like a comfortable viewing and participatory experience.
And the thing is, I think that both of those models can exist at the same time. And that's the part that I'm just like, that kind of like stumps me, is I'm like, yeah, you have like all these amazing artists that are participating. You have maybe this someone like a collector who's there, who's interested in buying. Why is it now this like goal of like, well, I can only put my energy into this one person? It kind of just takes a little extra effort on the end of like the curator or the gallery owner to be inclusive. And I just don't think that that's happening a lot. I mean, there are places where it is, but when you're thinking of like the New York City art scene and people think about like, you know, the stereotype of it, it's not inclusive. And if you just put a little extra effort in, then it can be. And I just don't get that. Right.
Yeah, no. And like I've worked in a few galleries and I've seen the system.
Yes.
I've seen, I've seen
the system.
I've seen the system at work, and it's just not that.
Oh,
yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and also from our perspective, I think that, I mean, that was part of the initial frustration that like kind of pushed us to start Fora anyway. But also I think we have noticed that we've had such a huge success from doing shows within this model, that it kind of reiterates to us how there is such a gap for this type of space in the art world. And, you know, I mean, I think that we're being really intentional about it, which is why it's been super successful. But also I think it's because they're, like you said, it doesn't exist. For some reason, people are not putting together the like, you know, putting a little extra effort in facilitating, you know, conversations and connection with the artists in a more, meaningful way.
And just like open. It's just like,
just being normal.
You know, most of the time it's just like a fucking crowd that's like 10 people circling like one person, just waiting for their like 5 minutes to be like, I love your work. Move on. Like it's always that. Even with like chill small events like it always has like that just like heaviness to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, like I definitely agree. Like I think they both can exist at the same time.
They can, yeah.
It's not like the big art market's gonna go away.
Right, exactly.
Like it's just about like there's more to go around than people realize.
Yes,
There is like the scarcity of like the money and availability is there, and normal people want to buy and own art, but they don't know how, and they don't know like that there isn't they don't know that there's art under like thousands of dollars, and that like artists would be happy to sell work for like $1,000. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's also one of the things that we really think about with putting on our pop-up shows is, you know, I have a lot of friends that are not in the art world, but love art and are like voracious consumers of art and would love to purchase artwork. But when you are kind of an outsider or like on the outskirts of this world and you don't know the particularities of like what you're saying, that there's, you know, all these, you know, you just don't know the world. So for something like our pop-up shows, I think it's a really great opportunity as well to make the art world more accessible for people that aren't necessarily in it as well.
For consumers.
And people who want to appreciate art, but maybe feel intimidated by it, feel like it's not something, like purchasing artwork feels like this, like, right. You just really,
because they see $160 million Picasso that just sold, and they're like, I don't understand why that is so valuable.
Yes.
And then they go, I guess I don't understand art.
Yes. 100%.
Like, no, you just, it's not it.
You just don't have the right avenue. And also I just don't like, for me, I'm just kind of like, sometimes it really is just about the vibe that you're creating and not to be like annoying, but it really is like, if you like, one thing that I think we do, and we're not perfect, there's obviously always room for improvement. You're like, really? You sure? We really do try to make an effort, just talk to all of the artists like during the pop-up shows and like create a vibe of just like, go ahead, talk to each other. Like, let's start this conversation. And we've tried different things where it's like, if you're an artist, have a sticker so that like someone can approach you if they want to purchase. Some things don't work, but just the general vibe that we've set, I think has been the most effective of just being like, we have people that we might know who's interested in this work. And like, let's just make this like a normal, fun atmosphere. And that way it's more approachable. Like even as an artist, sometimes, I mean, for me, like in my personal work, I'm like uncomfortable talking about my work and I don't want to like stand there and explain things. And I might shut down in a space like that. But if it feels normal and it feels like fun, then you kind of come out of your shell a little bit.
Yeah, or if you have someone there who's like got your back and can do the work for you in that way, and then you're just like,
just like,
No, I remember when we were in college. I wasn't in college alone, but
you're the only person at SUNY New Paltz.
When we were in school, I remember thinking like, it's so cool that certain artists are all like represented by the same gallery. I was like, it's so cool. They must all hang out and talk to each other all the time. And when I found out that didn't happen,
and it's like competitive,
and like most of them don't even know each other. I was like, what the fuck is what? How? Why? Like, you know, it didn't make sense. Like, especially because of like how natural it was for all of us to like have that kind of dialogue, especially like in school. You know, I get it. You're like living on top of each other, so it's like easier.
But that's a replicable model as well. Like, even if you're not like living with other people in a space where everyone is an artist, there are so many. I mean, there's probably like 1,000 artists like in our building alone.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you don't know. And if there's no way for you to connect, then how are you going to know? Like, that's so possible outside of college.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in like the shared studio spaces in the city, like no one fucking hangs out with each other there.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, that's something that we've done some artist spotlights, and one of with people that we've worked with in the past in our shows. And one of the questions that we always include is, what has been your experience building a community in the art world in New York City? And how important is that to you as an artist? And the reason that we are so interested in that kind of question amongst the group is it feels like that is also something that is kind of a barrier for a lot of artists when they come to the city. And I don't know if it's a thing of like, oh, you know, if you're a trained artist, you went to school for it, of course you're going to stay within the community of artists that you met in that scene. If you're self-taught, you know, I'm not sure like how you would build a community in that way. So I think that we also feel really strongly about, you know, emphasizing how mutually beneficial it can be to artists to connect and, you know, cross network with each other, because there are a lot of people from different backgrounds who have not necessarily, you know, there's a lot of barriers. For example, like they don't understand the gallery structure model, right? Like if you're a self-taught artist, you haven't really shown in some of these big galleries, you don't have the connections and background. Like there's a lot of bureaucratic things you have to know that you just are kind of like on your own to figure out. And I feel we could really facilitate meaningful relationships for that.
Yeah. You don't even like, most people don't even know that open calls are a thing.
Yeah.
Like, and that's also something I'm trying to tackle with like the YouTube channel. It's just like, this is how you write an artist statement.
Yeah.
This is how you like find open calls. This is like all that stuff, like just trying to create more education and resources, like things that I wish I had in school. I think like, or things that I wish that I had in high school before I paid and went to college.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's crazy how much potential there is with all this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that even when we talk about putting on future workshops, we've talked about making them practically oriented as well. Like how to write an artist bio. Like that feels like,
or like how to photograph your work.
Yes,
like
exactly. Right. Yeah. Things that like that is another like accessibility barrier that we think a community of artists together could tackle this.
Yeah.
Because you could, teach each other across this is how you do this and that. But yeah, we think workshops could be another like really meaningful way to facilitate some of the information.
100%. And like workshops are also a way to have revenue. Like, again, like depending on the space that you're in, like doesn't have to be a high cost.
And like honest revenue and not like
it's like you're providing like a direct it's a class.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. It's not like pay me money and maybe I'll show your work.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't feel like gross. It feels like a reasonable like thing to ask for money for.
Yeah, of course it is. It takes time and energy to put into it. It's like labor on your part to set it up. Like
like whoever's leading the workshop, they can make some money off of that too. Like
exactly. And then like, depending, we could go like way deeper on that. But
and I will say like to what you're saying about like we asked this question about how important is a community to you and as an artist. I think that's like a question worth thinking about because I don't think every artist needs a community. I think some people just aren't interested in that, and that's okay.
Are fine in a vacuum.
Right. Yeah. And that's fine. And if that's how they create their best work and they're most comfortable that way, then that's what it is. But as an artist, for me, I feel like I am most comfortable in a community space, and that's when I feel the most like inspired. So that's the kind of people we're like wanting to attract,
Do you think like physical space is important, or like do you think there is like potential to build community online?
Good question.
Yeah, I think we haven't really thought that much about online community as much for now. Physical space feels like the most important for the initial stages, at least, just to kind of like really meet people in because I think online community building is totally valid and has a lot of benefits, but I think for me at least, the in-person connection of being in a space with other people can kind of facilitate something pretty unique that you can't get online. But
yeah, I actually, that's a good question because I don't know if I've thought about the online aspect of it. Obviously, it's definitely possible to build like a valuable community online. And we can see that like even during the pandemic, just the way that people were connecting online was like brand new. I worked from home for 4 years. I don't want to do that again, but I think it's fair.
No, that's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I want to talk to you guys about that offline. But I think there's like so much possibility to merge the two, to have like to build, because if you want to build something, like that's where the most people are at right now.
Yeah,
it's
and like
true.
Especially during the pandemic, like we saw like people want the MySpace experience again.
Yeah.
Like
ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Exactly. You see?
Like we can bring it back. I'm not opposed.
Yeah, you're right.
But so tell me about like outside of like the workshops and the other possible avenues of like events and things you can do, how do you see yourself growing with this?
Well, for me, I think when I think about Fora, like we were talking about this the other night, it's like two prongs for me. One prong is that building a community can give you a lot of resources. And that's what we talked about, like even just throughout this, is like you have a group of artists now. We've worked with artists who like have worked at the Met or like have connects through this and that. And like those are valuable resources that can help you actually advance your career and give you growth opportunities. So that's like one very obvious benefit to having a community of artists that are like after the same goal. The other prong for me is individual growth. So like for me in my practice, I'm inspired by all mediums. I'm inspired by like music, by literature, and like you can't reach that by just being in a vacuum. And that helps my personal practice, just collaborating with others and being in a space where people are just thinking about it, talking about it. You don't have to like necessarily even have actionable steps, but even just like having friends who are creative where you can talk through ideas, and that just gives you like inspiration. So for me, like my personal growth, I guess, would be just like improving my own personal practice. But I also think that like I love just being part of something where we can facilitate that connection for everyone else too. So that's like my kind of take on that.
Yeah. I feel the same. Honestly, I have nothing to add to that. That's perfectly said.
Yeah. Literally everyone is like wanting some like cool scene because there literally isn't. Like it's Chelsea.
I know.
Yeah.
It's Soho. And like both of them are like kind of whack as fuck right now. It's just like New York high, it's like New York high fashion wannabes, transplants, like some good art, and then like a bunch of fucking old people. Like it's weird.
Yeah. And there are scenes that kind of just exist that like are not highlighted. And that's like another thing that would be cool to start breaking into, like in other boroughs outside of Manhattan. There's a lot of really amazing scenes and really amazing artists who are like throwing together shows and like connecting, and they're in whatever way they are. And like, it's just not highlighted the way that these scenes that you're talking about are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were in the Bronx yesterday, and the Bronx art scene is something that we know there's a lot going on there, but we haven't like touched on that community yet. So yeah, same with, I know in Brooklyn, there's so many kind of like smaller micro communities as well of artists and creatives that are doing really cool things. And so we, as Fora, would love to also collaborate in that way so we can highlight. I mean, there are people that are doing really amazing things that, like you said, are not necessarily being highlighted. And so it would be great for that to be kind of a side benefit of doing Fora, is that we could collaborate with these other collectives and groups of artists that are doing these things and really show that too.
Anyone you want to shout out?
Well, we met with Art Tech Collective yesterday, and they work with artists with disabilities, and they're like really invested, and they're just really invested in like creating a space where it's like legitimate, and they can really kind of like similar to us, like facilitate connections for these artists so that they can make real money and really be in these scenes. And they are located in the Bronx, so that's like we're connecting with them.
They have other locations as well in like Manhattan and Brooklyn too. So I think that's the main connection that we like made recently that we're really excited about.
Hey, shout out to Art Tech Collective.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Shout out to them. Shout out to Dan.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
What's up? Do you guys feel like you've had to take on like kind of like a business ownership role? Have you like had to like treat this like a business? How is that? Like, what was that learning experience like?
Yeah. So actually, this is something that I think we figured out pretty early on, but because, like I work in a corporate environment, and Alana did as well at the time when we started, there is a lot of this like administrative organizational work that feels really normal for me, because it's something that I have to do every day at work, of these kind of like developing processes and like, answering email, like just like very classic admin work that is really, it has to have a certain level of detail oriented, practice to that. That is something that I think was actually probably a benefit of both of us coming from corporate backgrounds doing this, because that is actually a really necessary part of making this happen. And like, we have spoken to a lot of people that work at galleries and like artists that have worked with galleries saying how it's such a mess. And it's like done in this like really archaic system. Like no one knows how to open a Google Doc. Like it's just literally a total mess. And I think we were able to take on a lot of those, like streamline a lot of those kind of like messy admin practices because of our like day jobs. And so that's been a benefit, but it also has meant that like we have had to take on a decent amount of like admin, business development-esque work that is a full-time job. But I think that part of what's been successful about Fora is that we are actually doing that in a really intentional kind of like businessy, streamlined way, at least on the back end, like with like, you know.
I actually think that's a really good like point to talk about, because that's something that we also were discussing when we were starting Fora, is the way that like there is this like brain of like an artist, and like that's why you make art, you know, and there's just like so many times where artists are expected to be able to do literally everything
and anything.
And make money off of it, and be able to like market yourself, and be able to like streamline processes for yourself. And that's just not how the world works. Like you can't just do everything. I feel like my brain can I really enjoy like processes and organization, and like that's really like kind of fun for me.
I literally work in creative operations.
Right. It's like there are aspects of the art world that require that sort of like analytical kind of like thought process, and I enjoy that. And I think like it's cool to be able to utilize that skill and that like passion almost to facilitate things for other people. I will say I was not able to do that for myself when I was trying to freelance as an artist. It was so hard. So it's like, how can you expect people to do that for themselves, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's also why, you know, to Alana's point, part of the barriers and accessibility for artists is that they do have to take on a lot of that like administrative work for themselves that can be, and then so that's one piece of it. They're doing that on their own, which is not necessarily something people are taught to or prepared to do. And then also when they're working with galleries, they're also a mess, even though they're supposed to be like, you know, this institution that's helping artists kind of, you know, take away some of that. They actually add to it because they are not necessarily running in the most effective way. So it kind of feels like there's two areas that we can supplement, that we're able to make, you know, take on some of that work for the artists to,
and sometimes even like the gallery.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's another huge benefit that we can provide.
Yeah. I feel like people just think like art organizations run off of like Instagram DMs and good vibes. Like, and that's just not the case.
Someone's got to do it. Someone's got to do it. I mean, you know.
But no, I know exactly what you're saying, because when I was working at this like art gallery in Midtown in 2020, in the year of our Lord 2020, I was the photo and like image specialist.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
I was using a DSLR camera from 2005.
Yeah, I mean,
that's insane.
And they wouldn't get me a new one. They had Modigliani's, they had a Matisse there, they've had all kinds of shit. And I'm asking for a 2018 DSLR to take photos of the art, and they're like, we don't think that's necessary.
It's not in the budget. I'm sorry.
We don't think that's necessary. Neither is your raise.
Well, see, actually, that's the other issue is I feel like there's a lot of parts about the art world that I think the conversation around it is that like so many of these aspects are not legitimate. So it's like, in order for you to do your job, you just need a fucking proper camera. And it's like, well, you're just expected to work with whatever you can get because you're an artist and it's not like legitimate. And it's like, it doesn't really matter, you know? But it's like, no, these are, as an artist, that's a legitimate practice. And as like a business, you have to look at these things as legitimate like necessities to push your business forward, and there's just not that like same level of seriousness in it.
Totally.
The amount of convincing I had to get them to do to start posting on Instagram stories,
like Jesus,
like
why are we having that conversation in the year of our Lord 2020?
Like, check everything that I post. They would check the spelling, they would check the caption of like every Instagram post, and it's just like, this is a waste of energy.
It is.
Like, just like the lack of value on like the digital creative side, and then also like the like just lack of value of labor in general.
Totally.
In the art world, where like it's like supposed to be like the most pro like every cause and
I know.
Shit, every
right, exactly.
Like,
right, exactly.
And actually, I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, we have had conversations as well with people that are, you know, also trying to startups in the art world that are tackling this exact issue, saying like, why is it that all these other industries are super up to date with like social media, you know, making things like, to your point about like the digital world, like making things accessible online, like being able to purchase, you know, like I know Artsy has their like online forum where artists can like sell their work, which is I know is a whole other beast. But like,
I could like go off about like
right,
how
exactly.
like the art world online selling aspect post pandemic because like
it's commercialized.
The switch that they made because it's what it comes down to is, do they think they need it?
Yeah.
And they don't think they need it most of the time because they're all making millions of dollars anyway.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the pandemic hit, as soon as the moment came where they couldn't bring people into the gallery, they couldn't get their clients in, and they had to adapt to selling online, like that.
They just made it happen,
Like that. It was like the drop of a hat. They were like, oh shit, we need to fucking figure this out. And some of them did, and a lot of them did not.
Right. And but that's kind of the point of, I think also what we have noticed is that there is so much room for just like a general industry growth in this area in the art world where it's like, why are we using 2005 cameras?
Yeah.
And you know,
but
in this
what
day
do
and
we
age,
like
why
actually
can't we do
think
that?
that is? Like, is that like, because you're right, like so many other industries, they're just required to like, to get ahead of the
like
curve
get with
every
the time. Yeah.
And I always question like, what do we think it is?
They literally, because they literally don't need to.
Yeah.
You think
because
so?
they're fucking making their money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Literally, it's like, it's just that like if they didn't make the money, they'd adapt.
That's very true.
Yeah.
They don't need to. They're relying on like, it's like trading, like, you know, fucking selling Picassos is like trading the S&P 500. It's a surefire win.
Yeah.
Like, so, you know, whatever.
But I think
there's
that's
a lot of
also,
money. Yeah.
that's like ego too, right? It's like, okay, well, this is like how I'm doing it and it works for me. So I'm not willing to like think about other options
They're
here.
just ancient people.
Yeah.
Like I tried like the first, like when I tried to get like the first iteration of this podcast, I was trying to do it at the gallery and have them own it and like set it all up, pay for all the equipment and everything. Because
like on behalf of
like
the gallery?
It would have been like the gallery's name and like the title of the podcast. And I would have done it all as part of my job.
Taking all that work. Yeah.
But then they would have benefited so much. They would have been able to facilitate like great conversations, have like all these people come in, this and that. And they were like, don't see the value in a podcast. Don't get it. Do have a system for the pricing at least.
Yeah.
But it is just like, all right, MFA, this show, this show,
Yep.
this show.
Yep.
This institution, this, that.
Yeah.
Again, access and
it's just like, okay, so they like see these credits and they're like, okay, I can sell this for $70,000. That'll be the price.
That's their system.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
That's
right. Their system of like arbitrary, you know,
numbers
they've
assigned
just decided.
to,
Yeah.
It's a clout-based price
It
system.
is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And once again, ego. I just feel like there's a lot of ego there's ego in everything. But I think like for some reason, I just find that, and I've worked with galleries too, where I'm just like absolutely so confused by like, it's like, I'm not going to name drop, but I've worked with a particular gallery and they had asked me and this other curator who we were collaborating on this show to have a show in the space. It was making them money. We were doing it for free. We were like interning, quote unquote. And so we have this whole thing planned out. We did a really great job. It was an open call. Again, $50 for an application fee for people who didn't even make it in, whatever. Beside the point, we're making all this money for them. It comes time for the day of the show. I was like working, I think that night or like I had to work during the day. I was like bartending. And then I get a call from the other curator and she was like, I'm at the gallery right now. There's a band here and they said they have a show tonight here. And I was like, what are you talking about? We couldn't get in touch with the gallery owner. I like left work. I go there and they're like, yeah, this was like on the books. Like this was scheduled. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding? There's an art show also happening tonight. And I don't even think we were able to get in touch with the gallery owner. We had to make it work. We literally said, they were like setting up their stuff against the wall. And we were like, no, because we're hanging work all on this wall. You can't stand in front of it. If we're going to make this work, like you need to be in the middle of the room. So we had them in the middle of the room. We had both shows. We finally talked to the gallery owner and she's like, oh, oops. And it's like, bitch, are you actually kidding me right now? Like, are you actually kidding? Because all of this work that we just put in to make only you money, only for you to just give us a complete obstacle. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You can't even like come up with a proper date. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like,
yeah.
Why is there an obstacle there like that? That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Can you say the name of the gallery? I'll bleep it out.
It was in New Paltz and it was...
Fuck you guys.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
And that's the podcast.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we talked about literally everything.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, promotions. Do that. You got it. When's your open call happening?
Yeah, open call. We're within the next few weeks. I think we're gonna start blasting that out.
Yeah. On Instagram.
On Instagram. What's your Instagram?
At Fora.arts.
At Fora.arts. We're working on our website. It's not quite up yet.
Okay.
But it's going to be up.
and then when is the next show?
January 5th. That's
5th.
going to be at Gallery MC. That's in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, January 5th, probably from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'll usually go a little bit later. Typically same model, $5. You get some alcohol and you get to just hang out in an amazing space with amazing artists.
All right.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Hit them up. Okay. I think we're good.
Yay. Cool.